He's working 14-hour days to afford the house she wanted. He's cancelled 3 weekend trips with his friends because she needed him available. He's sitting through her sister's birthday party, watching the score on his phone instead of the game he's been hyped about all week. His bank account is smaller. His free time has evaporated. His personal goals are quietly collecting dust at the back of his mind. Ask him about it, and he'll smile and say, "It's worth it. That's what you do when you love someone." Ask her about it, and she'll say, "Relationships are about equality, partnership, and compromise. We both give and take." Both of them believe that. Both of them are sincere. And both of them are operating inside a beautiful delusion that hides one brutal truth. In modern relationships, men consistently lose more than they gain, while women consistently gain more than they lose. Not every relationship, not every couple, not every woman, but as a pattern, as a system, it's undeniable once you know what to look for. This isn't about hating women. It's not about refusing to love or refusing to lead. It's about understanding the math behind modern relationships. Who gives what, who receives what, and why the equal partnership slogan usually falls apart the moment you actually measure costs. Today, we're going to break this down. Why this loss imbalance exists. Why it's baked into attraction itself. Why it's not entirely unfair, and why it still needs to be managed. How smart men can accept that losses are inevitable, but refuse to let them be unlimited, unconscious, and destructive, because this isn't about becoming bitter, it's about becoming strategic. 1. The upward mobility imperative. Why she can't just stay where she is. To understand why men bleed more in relationships, you have to understand one thing first. Women are not attracted to lateral moves. They're attracted to upward mobility, not consciously, not like a spreadsheet, but at a deep biological, psychological level. Most women are wired to seek a man who improves their life, not just matches it. I call this the upward mobility imperative. It operates on a simple principle. Most women don't enter relationships to maintain their current position. They enter relationships to improve their position. That improvement can look like better housing and living conditions, more financial security and stability, access to better social circles or networks, higher social status or perceived prestige, more exciting experiences, trips, restaurants, environments, emotional stability compared to their previous chaos. Again, this isn't about gold diggers, it's about calibration. A woman might love you deeply, she might be loyal, kind, and emotionally invested. But at the same time, her attraction tends to run strongest toward men who earn more, are more established, are more competent, are more socially respected, or at least represent a step up from her last situation. That upward step can be financial, emotional, social, or lifestyle-based, but it's there. This creates what I call the enhancement expectation. If she's with you, her life should be better than it was before you, not just emotionally, tangibly. So what happens if her life doesn't feel upgraded, if the lifestyle stalls, if his career stagnates, if his ambition drops, if she feels the relationship is holding her back? Her attraction usually starts to evaporate. That doesn't make her evil. It means her underlying programming is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Seek improvement, avoid stagnation, and definitely avoid decline. So if women are generally seeking men who offer some kind of enhancement, then the men who successfully attract and keep women must be prepared to provide that enhancement. An enhancement always comes at a cost. That cost is what most men never actually calculate. 2. The value transfer, protocol, how resources quietly flow from men to women. Once you understand the upward mobility imperative, you start to see the second layer, the value transfer protocol. This is the system, usually invisible, by which value consistently flows from men to women in romantic relationships, not occasionally, systematically, and it operates across multiple dimensions at the same time. 1. Financial value. Men pick up most dates early on. men pay for trips more often. Men cover a bigger slice of shared living expenses. Men buy more gifts, upgrades, and lifestyle comforts. Men often take financial hits in compromised decisions, moving, job changes, etc. 2. Time value. Men adjust their schedules to fit her availability. Men attend her social events, family gatherings, birthdays, weddings. Men give up hobbies, trips, and downtime to show they're serious. 3. Opportunity value. Men turn down social invitations to avoid conflict. Men pass on professional opportunities that would strain the relationship. Men reduce time with friends to prioritize the relationship. 4. Energy value. Men provide emotional support when she's stressed, upset, anxious. Men act as problem solvers, planners, and stabilizers. Men deal with conflict management and often absorb more emotional volatility. 5. Lifestyle elevation value. Better apartments partially or fully funded by him. Vacations she couldn't afford, alone. Social circles she gains access to through him. Experiences, restaurants, environments upgraded by his presence and wallet. And here's the trick. All of this is so normalized that it becomes invisible. When he pays, it's being a gentleman. When he compromises, it's what a good boyfriend does. When he funds the upgrade, it's we decided to move up a level. He sees it as caring commitment, masculine leadership. She sees it as natural expected. That's what a real man does. The key word in the protocol is transfer. Value moves from him to her, consistently. Now, can she provide value back? Absolutely. Emotional support, affection, companionship, domestic help, sometimes money too. But when you actually run the numbers across time, money, energy, and opportunity cost, the net flow tilts heavily in one direction. Men are the producers, women are primarily the consumers. That's not an insult, it's a structural reality. 3. Investment asymmetry. When you finally do the math. This brings us to the third layer, investment, asymmetry, reality. Put simply, men typically invest more overall than they get back from romantic relationships. Across money, time, energy, opportunity, risk. And it's not just about how much he spends, it's about what it costs him compared to what it costs her. Money, he pays a $150 dinner bill. She offers closeness, affection, and emotional connection. Both walk away thinking, that was a nice night, we both gave something. But the cost structure is not equal. For him, a literal financial subtraction. For her, a pleasant evening she would have gladly experienced anyway. Men routinely trade hard resources for soft resources, money and time in exchange for emotional and physical connection. That's the exchange rate. Time and an opportunity. He gives up trips with friends, adjusts his weekends, bends his schedule for her family events. She gives up. What exactly? In most cases, very little emotional energy. He listens through long emotional downloads, helps her process stress, work drama, family issues, stays strong when she's weak. She might support him too, but in most relationships, his emotional breakdowns are less frequent, less tolerated, less supported. His emotional availability is expected. Hers is optional. The reciprocity, illusion. The big psychological trick in all this is what I call the reciprocity illusion. On the surface, it feels like we both give, we both receive. In reality, once you factor in cost, effort, and risk, the imbalance is obvious. You see it most clearly at the end. Breakups, divorces, long-term relationships that collapse. Who usually loses more financially, more in terms of housing stability, more in terms of access to children, more in social perception? Usually him. Who usually leaves with more experience, improved lifestyle history, expanded social networks, often some financial gain, or at least protection? Usually her. Again, this doesn't mean women are malicious. It means the system rewards them more than it rewards you. So if you're a man, the question is not, how do I stop losing anything? You can't. Loss is built into the model. The real question is, how do I control the size and purpose of my losses? That's where strategy comes in. 4. The consumption versus production matrix. Why your effort is the engine, relationships are resource systems. Someone is producing the majority of value. Someone is consuming the majority of that value. That's the consumption versus production matrix. In most modern relationships, the man is the primary producer. The woman is the primary consumer. This isn't just about money. He produces stability, plans, protection, structure. She consumes time, attention, lifestyle, funding, emotional energy, logistics. From the female side, this is ideal. The relationship should leave her net positive across lifestyle, security, experience, and emotional support. From the male side, that means he must consistently provide more than he consumes, or she will eventually lose attraction. A woman consistently providing more than she receives, pays more, does more, carries him emotionally and financially. What happens? Most of the time she resents him, loses respect, eventually leaves. Why? Because her attraction system is not built to sustain relationships where she's the main producer and he's the main consumer. That's why, when roles are reversed, the relationship rarely lasts. So what does that mean for you as a man? It means that relationships are stable only while you're providing more than you receive. It also means that if you're not paying attention, you will overproduce, under-benefit, drain yourself over time while she feels the arrangement is fair. Which brings us to the most important pivot. You cannot avoid being a producer in relationships, but you can decide why you're producing, how much you're willing to lose, where your limit is, and that takes us into strategy. 5. The strategic sacrifice framework. Losses. You choose versus losses that choose you. Here's the reality. You will lose things in relationships: money, time, energy, opportunities. Trying to avoid all loss is childish and impossible. The answer is not never invest. The answer is invest strategically. That's where the strategic sacrifice framework comes in. This framework says, don't ask, how do I avoid sacrifice? Ask, which sacrifices serve my mission and which just drain me? Step 1. Purpose-driven investment. Before you pour resources into a relationship, ask, what is this for? Is this leading towards something I actually want? Am I aiming for casual connection, long-term partnership, marriage and family, social or lifestyle benefits? Or am I just avoiding being alone? Each goal supports a different level of acceptable investment. If you want casual companionship, you shouldn't be investing like a husband. If you're seeking a wife and mother for your future children, higher investment can be justified, but only if she actually meets that standard. Without purpose, sacrifice feels random and eventually breeds resentment. With purpose, sacrifice becomes strategy. Step 2. ROI reality. Check regularly. Ask yourself, what am I actually getting for what I'm giving? Not in a petty scorekeeping way, but in a rational, adult way. Is the relationship helping you grow, supporting your mission, bringing peace into your life, giving you loyalty, respect, and reciprocity? Or is it constant drama, constant emotional labour, constant demands for more, constant pressure to prove your value? If you're investing future wife and mother, levels of time, money and energy into a woman who doesn't support your goals, has shaky values, would be a disaster as a long-term partner, you're not being romantic, you're being reckless. 6. The acceptable loss doctrine. How much are you willing to bleed? Military strategy has a concept: acceptable losses. You don't go into battle expecting 0 casualties. You go in knowing what you're willing to lose to win something bigger. Relationships are the same. You need an acceptable loss doctrine. These are the kinds of sacrifices I'm willing to make. These are the ones I'm not. Variables in your doctrine. Your goals. If your mission is family, some heavy long-term investment is expected. If your mission is building wealth, reputation, or a specific career, your relationship must not blow holes in that ship. Your resources. A man with high earning potential, strong network, and solid options can afford to be more generous. A man just starting out, broke, or rebuilding after divorce cannot. Your alternatives. If you have abundance in the dating market, you can set higher standards and lower loss tolerance. If your options are limited, you still must be careful not to overpay just to have someone. Your timeline. You can afford different levels of sacrifice at 25 than at 45. Early life should prioritize building yourself. Later life may justify greater relationship investment. Your doctrine defines maximum financial sacrifice, maximum time sacrifice, maximum emotional sacrifice. Non-negotiable boundaries, career, location, children, values, and most importantly, what happens when your acceptable loss line is crossed? That leads us to boundaries. 7. Resource allocation. Your life is a portfolio, not a donation bucket. Think of your life as a portfolio. You have limited time, money, emotional energy, focus, physical capacity. Every unit you allocate to your relationship is a unit you're not putting into. Your career, your business, your health, your friendships, your skills, your future options. This is the resource allocation strategy. A smart man doesn't dump everything into one asset. He diversifies. If you make your relationship the center of your life, the primary source of your meaning, your joy, and your identity, you've overallocated. If that relationship fails, it doesn't just hurt, it collapses your entire structure. So you balance relationship investment, personal development, financial growth, health and fitness brotherhood, and social capital, hobbies and passions. You also understand escalation. Women tend to expect more overtime, more time, more money, more emotional engagement, more life reorientation. You don't just accept escalation blindly. You monitor it against your doctrine and your strategy. You're not anti-giving, you're anti-over-giving. 8. Investment return. Analysis. Is this still worth it? You can't just emotionally feel your way through this. You need periodic investment return analysis. Ask yourself, financially, is this relationship helping or hurting my long-term stability? Socially, has my network shrunk or grown? Emotionally, do I feel more calm and grounded or more drained and unstable? Practically, is my life easier or harder to manage with this woman in it? Spiritually, mentally, am I becoming a stronger version of myself or a smaller one? Be honest about sunk costs. Yeah, but I've already invested so much, is how men waste years. It doesn't matter what you've already spent. What matters is whether continued investment makes sense. You also look at replacement cost. If this relationship ended, how hard would it be to replace what she actually brings? Could you find companionship, sex, and some emotional support elsewhere without paying this much in cost? If the answer is yes, you're probably overpaying. 9. Boundaries and strategic withdrawal. Testing the reality of the relationship. None of this matters if you can't enforce your limits. That's why you need a boundary enforcement system. This includes clear communication early on about what you will and will not do, firmness when those boundaries are tested, the willingness to walk away if necessary. Understand, women will test boundaries, often unconsciously. They will push for more time, more access, more resources, more change. That's not always malicious. It's part of how they calibrate your strength and seriousness. Your job is to hold your line calmly, not cave because you're scared to lose her, not explode in anger, and then apologize your boundaries away. Sometimes the best way to reset a relationship dynamic that's become lopsided is strategic withdrawal. Pull back some financial investment, pull back some emotional labor, pull back some time and availability. Then watch. Does she step up? Does she adjust and meet you halfway? Or does she rage, punish, and threaten to leave because the flow of value slowed down? If a slight reduction of your investment causes the relationship to fracture, you weren't in a partnership, you were in a resource extraction arrangement. 10. Purpose-driven partnership. When losses are worth it. Now, here's the part most men miss. This isn't an argument against relationships. It's an argument against unconscious, unlimited, uncalculated sacrifice. There are situations where your sacrifices are worth it. A woman who genuinely supports your mission. A partner who contributes in meaningful, tangible ways. A relationship that multiplies your strength instead of draining it. A family vision that aligns with your values and long-term goals. That's what I call the purpose-driven partnership model. In this model, you have a clear mission outside the relationship. She understands and respects that mission. Both of you contribute to shared goals. The relationship creates more total value than either of you could create alone. You still lose things, money, time, some flexibility, but those losses feed into something you genuinely care about. Children legacy, a stable family, a shared empire, a life structure you actually choose. The difference between this and the default modern relationship: your investment aligns with your values, your boundaries remain intact, the scale of your sacrifice matches the scale of your vision. You're not just funding her lifestyle and emotions, you're jointly building something that makes sense. Final word: the difference between a strategic partner and a walk-in ATM. If you're a man today, understand this. You will lose things in relationships. You cannot escape that reality. But you absolutely can control how much, why, and for what. Your romantic success is not measured by how much can I sacrifice for a woman. It's measured by how intelligently do I invest in relationships that actually improve my life and align with my mission. That's the difference between a strategic partner and a resource extraction victim. You don't need to become bitter. You don't need to hate women. You don't need to swear off relationships forever. You need to understand the game. Define your acceptable losses. Guard your resources. Invest in line with your purpose. And walk away from anything that demands your soul in exchange for crumbs of validation. Losses are inevitable. But unconscious, unlimited, unexamined losses, those are optional. Choose your battles. Define your boundaries. Invest with purpose. Your future self will look back and thank you for every relationship you walked away from, and for the few you chose with your eyes fully open.